In this video we're making a simple sliding knot bracelet with a drilled crystal point. This design has two adjustable sliding knots and you could use a center or top drilled crystal point. Whatever crystal you're using, you just need to make sure it's got a hole big enough that can fit your thread inside. We're using a 1mm waxed twine. So we start by placing our crystal point onto the twine. Then we want to find the middle, so placing our ends together and following it back down to this other end. Now we're going to hold our left index finger just out from the crystal. We want that point on the cord, so we can actually slide the crystal out of the way if that's helpful. Trying to hold that cord in the same position. And then we bring this right end around our finger 2 times to make 2 full loops around. Now we gently remove the loops off our finger. Then with our tail end, we can bring it around and poke it down both loops, pulling it out the right hand side and gently working our knot down nice and tight and tidy. Now you can bring your crystal up against that knot. Give it a little pull, make sure it's nice and tight. And now we swap onto the opposite side and holding our left index finger just out from the crystal there. Then we bring this right end around our finger 2 times to make 2 full loops around. Gently removing the loops off our finger and then bringing this cord down both loops and pulling it out the right hand side. Now with this knot we want to gently work it up towards the crystal because we want one knot sitting on each side of that crystal to hold it in place. So gently working that cord and that knot up so that it sits nice and snug right next to that crystal. Making sure that knot's pulled really nice and tight, holding that crystal in place. Once you're happy with your knots, then we can move on to the sliding knot part of our design. We want both cords to be pretty much even, so I just hold that crystal there and follow the ends to the other end. And then cut that longer tail off just to even those cords up. Now for the sliding knot part of our bracelet, we just lay the bracelet down with the cords overlapping and this left side cord on the top. Now picking it up, we're going to hold it in our left hand with this left side cord at the back. Then we bring this tail over the front, down and out the back to create our first little loop. And then again over the front, down and out the back for a second loop. And then again for a third loop as well. Now you should have your 3 little loops here and your tail end. So we gently bend this tail end around and poke it down all 3 loops, pulling it out the right hand side. And then gently pulling your knot down nice and tight and tidy. Now this knot should slide along the other cord, so you can just check that and make sure it's sliding okay. If you're happy with it, then we swap our bracelet onto the opposite side and we're going to do the same thing again. So holding it in our left hand with this left side cord at the back, we're going to bring it over the front, down and out the back to form our first loop. And then again over the front, down and out the back for our second loop. And then again for a third loop as well. Now you want to bend your little end piece around and poke it down all 3 loops, pulling it out the right hand side. Now with the second sliding knot, we want to slowly pull it down so that we can get it even with the first sliding knot. So just take your time and don't pull it tight until you've been able to work it into the right position and it's sitting nice and even with the other side. Once you're happy with it, you can pull it nice and tight. You can check your sliding knots as well, make sure they're both sliding okay. And you want to check the size of your bracelet as well, just make sure it can extend big enough to fit over your wrist. If you're happy with it all, then you can cut these little tails off about 1 centimetre from the knot and then cinch the ends so they don't fray.